What's up guys, it's Nimbus Reviews here, back with another One Piece video. Today, we're going to be talking about my thoughts on the next crew member, and more specifically, why I think Momonosuke will definitely be one of the next few people to join the crew. Whether he joins it alone or not, that's up for debate, but I definitely think Momonosuke is coming. Ever since we entered the new world, we have been introduced to so many new characters, and just due to the nature of the story, many readers, including myself, love to speculate on which ones are Strawhat candidate. Before Jinbei, who just officially joined the crew this arc, the last new crewmate we got was Brook at the end of Thriller Bark, and that was around 2007 to 2008. That was about 13 years ago, so it's only natural for us to anticipate more crewmates before it gets too late in the story. And with that being said, I'd like to go over my thoughts on how Oda will handle the joining of the next crew member and who the potential candidates are. So let's get right into the discussion. Well, I'm going to talk about Yamato for a little bit because I think she's very obvious and probably the most obvious one out of all these candidates and the one people think is going to join the crew, like most certainly. So I wanted to talk about her first before I got into Momonosuke, but I go into a little more depth than I thought I would. So if you want to skip, I'm going to have the chapters timestamps in the description below, or you can just skip ahead to the chapters, whatever you want. But yeah, obviously my first candidate is Yamato. For me, it's not even really an argument or debate whether or not Yamato is joining the crew or not. I think most people will agree, so I won't try to defend this one too much, but I'll just give you my main reasons for believing this as quickly as possible and a few reasons for it not to happen. First and foremost, her personality and backstory fit perfectly for the Straw Hat crew. She's very eccentric and quirky, and she gets along well with Luffy, and he's already had great interactions with her, and I could honestly see her having a really unique relationship with everyone else on the crew, whether it be teaching Chopper how to use his own fruit better, learning how to be more womanly from Robin and Nami, where they can like take her out on a girls' night or whatever, because she's been raised as Kaido's son, even though I don't think she sees herself as a guy. At least that's not what is shown in the River card, because she's shown as just a woman. I think she just accepted it because Odin's a man, so it didn't matter to her. Or even training with Zoro. I don't really ever see it being hard to have her interact with any of the crewmates, so I think her personality would be a fun addition to the crew. My next reason for her joining would be her goals. Yamato wants to go out to sea with Luffy in the same way that Odin did. She wants to see the world and have a great adventure, and frankly the only way she can have that adventure is traveling with Luffy, who's a future pirate king, because she read Odin's logbook. He traveled with Whitebeard and Roger, two of the greatest pirates of all time, so I don't think traveling with someone else or by herself, the adventures that would bring I don't think they would live up to the adventures that she saw in the book. So she would have to travel with Luffy, who's going to have the greatest adventure because he plans on becoming the Pirate King, finding Laugh Tale, discovering the Void Century and all that. So for Yamato to get the adventure that she wants, she'd have to go with Luffy. My last main reason for Yamato joining the crew is simply because she has nothing left to do after Wano, and she really has nowhere to go. I know a lot of people have brought up the idea of her filling in as Shogun in Momo's place, but she really isn't cut out for that role. She hasn't been given the opportunity to mature like Odin did after leaving and returning to Wano. And if not Shogun, what else could she do? Where else besides the Straw Hats crew? I know, especially from the last few chapters we've seen in her backstory, the people of Wano will accept her into their lifestyle in their country, but I don't think that kind of life is suited for her, just sitting around in Wano doing whatever, trying to help it open up. She'd definitely be a good defense for the country in case someone did try to invade, whether it's the world government or a pirate, but I think she doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to be trapped down like she has been her whole life. She's been locked away on Onigashima her whole life. I don't think she wants to be locked away on Wano her whole life. So I don't see really any other place for her to go besides the Straw Hats crew. But if you have any thoughts on where she can go or what she could do if she doesn't join the crew, let me know in the comments down below. Now the only reasons I see against her joining the crew is it being too late in the story, which is something I just disagree with. So that's neither here nor there because it's just an opinion-based thing, because I think her character has developed enough and is going to continue to develop throughout this arc and throughout the end of the story to where it doesn't matter how late in the story she's joined, because she'll be a fleshed out character just like all the other Straw Hats by the time we reach the end game. And as far as them being too close to Raftail, I don't think that's true either, because Odin only joined Roger on his last year after decades of sailing, and I'm pretty sure Crocus was pretty similar as well. And then as far as her messing up the power dynamic between the crew, I think Zoro and Sanji will definitely grow enough in this arc or the next to maintain the current monster trio till the end of the story. And even if that wasn't the case, I don't really have a problem with it, because I know Zoro will obviously be stronger than Yamato by the end of the story, but I don't mind Sanji being weaker than Yamato, who's obviously a fighter. Sanji's a cook, that's his job, he's not a fighter. Yamato, if she joined the crew, her job would be fighter. She has no other skills or abilities that would help the crew in any situation besides fighting. So for me, that's not a big problem, but I know why for some people it would be, because it's always been the monster trio, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Sanji being a lot of people's people's favorite characters, I can see why it's a problem, but for me, it's personally not. Before I get into Momonosuke, I'd like to talk about a few of the other candidates, or at least who other people think are candidates, a little bit just so I can get them out the way. So first, I'm going to go with Carrot. Honestly, I'm pretty against Carrot joining the crew. I don't like her personality really at all. I don't think she has really cool interactions with anyone in the crew. I guess she has a unique relationship with Chopper where she views him as an older brother, but that's about it. And I don't think she adds anything to the crew that is useful enough to keep her around. Also, I don't think Oda has given her enough development or characterization in the past couple of arcs that she's been in to warrant her joining the crew, or even make it seem like he wants her to join the crew. Next would be Otama. This, again, I'm not personally for, but I'm also not against it in the same way that I am with Carrot. Because like when Momonosuke was a kid, I thought, oh, that'd be a cool dynamic. Otama and Momonosuke, they join together and whatever, and they learn, they grow and train together, whatever. And then eventually, like, Otama could be like his retainer when they did return to Wano. But now that Momo has been aged up, I'm really not for it in the same way that I was before. The only thing keeping me still from not disagreeing with it is that Ace promised to take her out when she got older, and it's only been what, 2, 3, 4 years? I'm not sure. I don't know if she's old enough to join the crew. Obviously Buggy and Shanks were on Roger's crew when they were really young, so it's not super weird, but I'm just not sure if she would add anything interesting enough to the crew to warrant her joining. Okay, so during the mainland Wano arc, like when it was first beginning, I was thinking Hiyori would be a good candidate for joining the crew because I did want Momonosuke to stay and fulfill his role as Shogun, but I do see why people thought, oh, she should be Shogun and he goes with because he was too young, but now he's been aged up. But my main reason for thinking she would be a good candidate is she was being developed quite a bit. A lot more than anyone else in the arc, and she was developing a weird sort of relationship with Zoro. But at this point in the story, she's basically been completely like cut off. She hasn't progressed or shown anywhere. She hasn't shown up anywhere besides maybe her being that shadow that healed the scabbards. So I'm just not sure that Oda would want to have her join the crew if he wasn't going to develop her even more in the story like he has with Yamato or Momonosuke. So for me now, I think it's best that she stays in Wano and acts as a shogun until Momonosuke comes back. Or even Momonosuke doesn't even have to come back if he doesn't want to. He can be a pirate for the rest of his life. And since the Kozuki clan member would still be the shogun of Wano, I don't think that would really be a problem. Next would be Kinomon. And honestly, before I thought he might have joined the crew, or at least if Momo came, he was coming with. But at this point, I just want him to die. Not that I don't like him, but I feel like he's supposed to have died like so many times, he just needs to die already. And if he doesn't, at this point, I'll just be disappointed. This last one, before I get to Momonosuke, I didn't really even think I was going to talk about, but I do see some people say, like from here to there, sometimes I see it. I see it a lot more than random people or meme answers like Caribou or Caesar Clown, but who I'm talking about is Law. A lot of people have a feeling that Law was going to join the crew, and that just doesn't make sense to me because he's been traveling with the crew without having to join the crew this whole time ever since Punk Hazard. So why would all of a sudden he need to join the crew? Unless his whole crew died, that's the only way I could see him having to join the Strawhat crew. But honestly, after Wano, I think he might just leave and do his own thing. Obviously, we know he wants to learn the history and learn what the true meaning behind the Will of D and whatnot. But I think he might be just like, I'm done with this. I'll do it at my own pace. I'm not going to just follow Luffy and kind of embarrass myself just so I can learn the true history when I can do it myself at my own pace later on. So unless Oda does really plan on having him use the like immortal surgery or whatever it's called, I don't see him traveling with the Straw Hats any longer after Wano. Alright, so now I finally get to the title and thumbnail of the video, Momonosuke. And honestly, I just like to get right to the point. I think Momonosuke has to join the crew, or at the very least, he has to travel with the Straw Hats to Laugh Tale. Because for him to learn the true history, he might be able to learn how to write in the languages that was supposed to be passed down to him from the Kozuki clan. And finally learn what the Kozuki clan's main role in all of this was, whether like why they cut themselves off from the rest of the world, what their involvement with the Void Century was, with the Ancient Kingdom, why were they so closely tied to them that they were tasked with in carving the history on the stones, the poneglyphs. I think as one of the last Kozuki clan members, he has to be there when Luffy makes it to Laugh Tale. And this was basically straight up said in the story. I think it was chapter 1014 when Momonosuke was reading Odin's journal. He was like, oh, so I can't die after all. And I don't think that's something, whatever he can't die for, I don't think that's in Wano. Because in Wano, all they have to do is open up the country. That's what Odin's goal was, to open up Wano so it can be ready and open for when Joy Boy came. Assuming Luffy is Joy Boy, they're working on that right now, so once that's over, the only next thing he can possibly do is join Luffy on his journey to Laugh Tale, learn the true history of everything, learn what everything really means, what the Kozuki clan meant to the Void Century, what they meant to the Ancient Kingdom, and why it was so important for them to be isolated for so long. And I know this is just a theory and how I feel about something, but I really do think Roger had everything he needed to be Joy Boy, except for Poseidon. I know I've mentioned this previously in my Death and Dreams video a while back, but I really do think anyone has the opportunity to become Joy Boy. And I think Roger was Joy Boy in every factor besides having Poseidon. So aside from the timing, he had everything it took to be Joy Boy. And I don't think it was a coincidence that he found Odin on the very last year of his travels. Odin was the last piece he could possibly get to fulfill the prophecy of Joy Boy, and the only other piece he could get wasn't going to be born for years to come, Shirahoshi, who was Poseidon. And I know people probably think that like he only needed him to help read the poneglyphs and whatever, but we don't really know if that's the case, because we know Roger had the voice of all things. He can hear the voice of all things, and he had a basic understanding of what was on the poneglyphs just from being near them and kind of hearing what they had to say. Obviously, it's better to have a direct translation with Odin being there, but I think Odin had a bigger role than just translating the poneglyphs. Or else, why would it be so important that Momonosuke lived on when they already have Robin who can translate the poneglyphs for him, and Hiyori is there to have the Kozuki clan live on? There would be no need for Momonosuke to be left alive if he doesn't have something to do besides that. Now, aside from the role I think he has in the future of the plot of One Piece, I actually do think he's a really good addition to the crew in terms of personality. He has cool and fun interactions with people like Sanji, Brook, Nami, and Robin. He has a really cool relationship that we see with Zoro, where Zoro's kind of like a big brother to him and is able to train him in the way of the sword, which is pretty cool because we don't really see Zoro get too close to anyone on the crew in terms of a friendship, aside from Luffy, obviously. And also his interactions with Luffy has always been great since the moment they've met. He was the first one to meet Momonosuke back in Punk Hazard, so they have been able to develop their relationship all the way since then to now, which is really cool. It's really developed something really cool where he's kind of like a big brother, but kind of like the meaner big brother. Kind of doesn't just take anything he says, or he doesn't go easy on him in the same way that I feel like Zoro kind of goes easy on him. So obviously Luffy and Momonosuke's relationship is really cool. And also now that he's aged up to 28, he'd be a pretty nice power boost to the Straw Hats. Obviously he's not going to be the strongest. He's not going to be as strong as Yamato or Sanji or Zoro or even Jinbei probably, but I think he can at least get up to like right before them. Like he can get above Frankie, he can get above Robin, and probably by the end of the story he might be able to get to where Jinbei is, assuming he's inherited some of Odin's strength a little bit. And like I said with Yamato, I really don't think Momonosuke is mature enough to become the Shogun right now, because for like Odin, he had to go travel with Whitebeard and then travel with Roger and then come back for me to feel like he was mature enough to actually be the Shogun of Wano. And I honestly think Hiyori is more mature and more fitting for the role at the moment. So maybe once he's done, maybe he's done with his journey, he's traveled with the Straw Hat crew for a while now, and he's kind of done with the pirate life, then he can come back and then he can take over as Shogun or whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have to take over as Shogun. He can be free like Odin always wanted to be. He can just be a pirate. Because honestly, I just don't really think Momonosuke is as tied to the role as Shogun as I think many other people do. I don't think he's forced to be in that role, whether it's now or later. I think he can choose whatever he wants, but I specifically think right now he's not ready for that role. And if he does want to go back eventually after traveling with the Straw Hat crew, then he can do that. But right now is not the time. And with that being said, that basically sums up my whole thoughts on who's the next Straw Hat crew, specifically in the Wano arc, because I don't know if we'll get any going forward. But in Wano, I definitely think we're picking up at least one being Momonosuke and probably two being Yamato. And I don't know about anyone else, maybe some retainers we're following them with as not official crew members, but people to accompany Momonosuke on his travels. Whether it be Yamato is one of his retainers and Otama is one of his retainers. That's basically the gist of how I think it's gonna go. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Later.